Good morning, everyone. Whether you've joined us for the first time today or you've been joining us regularly, I'd like to say you are very welcome. And it was an honor for me to receive an invitation to share some of my thoughts again. And today, I'd like to focus on what God has invited us to do. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. This is one of his commandments. And it's always good to have both summarized version and full extended version. And this commandment, as I've read it now, it could be found in Mark chapter 12, in Matthew chapter 22, in Luke chapter 10. And the rest, we can see that the second part, the rest is about loving your neighbor. Now it says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And why did I say it's good to have summarized version and extended version? If you look closely, we could see that the first part, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength, is related with the first part of the 10 Commandments. It's related with our relationship with our Lord, with God. About having just Him, no other idols, worshiping just Him, about respecting His name, and about celebrating Lord's Day, the Sabbath, Sunday. And the second part, if we look closely, is related with our relationship with our neighbor, with our family, with our community. And as we know, it goes like this: honor your father and your mother. Shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet. And these commandments are summarized when Jesus says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And here I'd like to point out that Jesus says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. So be it a situation where someone is neglecting the needs of their neighbor and emphasizing, prioritizing one's own needs, we see it far too often manifested as some kind of oppression, of some kind of abuse, neglect. And these miseries are usually very loud and dramatic. But also, when Jesus says, love your neighbor as you love yourself, if one only focuses on the neighbor's needs and neglecting one's own needs, we've got another problem, another extreme, and it's also breaking this commandment. And we could see that for a short while, short term, this kind of position, prioritizing always your neighbor and neglecting your own needs, could seem to be like a great sacrifice, great love for your neighbor. But we know that unfortunately we cannot go like that for long. And the person who is doing it would be heading sooner or later for a burnout. And a burnout means that that person cannot care for others anymore and actually needs someone to care for him or her. So Lord, when he writes the commandments for us, when he tells the commandments, he knows us. He knows how much energy we have because he has created us. And he points out clearly, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And love and patience, perseverance, courage, and humility. We can find it also in Paul's life. In Paul's life after he accepted Jesus, after he allowed Jesus to change his identity. And as we know, he even had a different name. He was called Saul, and he was persecuting Christians. But what happens later on? He accepts Jesus, he's proclaiming the good news, and many people accept Jesus because of Paul's testimony. Of course, there are some who do not accept. And here Paul shows his patience, his kindness, perseverance, when he repeats, constantly reminds them who Jesus is and who they are in his eyes and who we are in Lord's eyes. In the Acts, we can read also in Paul's letter to the Romans, in his letters to the Corinthians, to Philippians. And on Thursday, in our Bible study, we were reading Paul's letter to the Romans, chapter 10. And especially a couple of verses, they touched my heart. And it was a verse 9 and verse 10. The word is near you. It is in your mouth and in your heart. That is the message concerning faith that we proclaim. If you declare with your mouth, Jesus is Lord, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Paul's letter to the Romans, chapter 10, verses 9 and 10. After our Bible study on Thursday, I was reading this again, and I noticed that verse 9, the second part of verse 9, actually had a footnote. And I found out that originally this part, the word is near you, it is in your mouth and in your heart, is coming from the Old Testament, from a book of Deuteronomy. So book of Deuteronomy consists of 3 speeches, sermons Moses was delivering to the Israelites. And when? It's very important, timing. Just shortly before they enter the promised land. Moses himself did not enter the promised land, but the Israelites did. And if we know that these were the words, the word is near you. It is in your mouth and in your heart. These are the words Moses is delivering to the Israelites just before they enter, before they enter the promised land. It must be really important. And we know that we and every single person is searching for happiness. Ways in which people try to find it not always lead to happiness. But we know even from psychologists that synchronizing your heart and your mind is one of the first steps towards living a happy life. And here Jesus is clearly saying heart and your mouth. So we could think that if only heart is acting, yes, one says that I believe in my heart, I truly feel it, I really feel and Jesus is important for me in my heart, but there is no declaring. It means that this is only one part. It's only half. Yes, perhaps it's the first stage. It could be, yes, that person has not decided yet, still possibly doubting. But if this stage is kept for too long, yes, and there is no declaring, just heart, in your heart, but no declaring, no proclaiming loud, unfortunately, it could slightly, step by step, just fade away for some time, yes? And it's important that once it's in your heart, you believe, you proclaim it, you share it. That could be another option as well, yes? Someone is just proclaiming, saying, declaring, and not enough time spent just really quietly accepting God's love and really experiencing it in one's heart. This is another problem, yes? Words, 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 too many words. They might sooner or later, if there's no fresh outpouring to into your heart, they might become a bit, empty and lighter. So again, balance. Like Laura was saying, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Now balance between heart and mouth, yes. And there is a well-known proverb many of you probably know, yes, you cannot give what you do not have. So we see that Paul, yes, first of all, he received God's grace, forgiveness, of course, because of what he has done. He accepted it, and then he started his mission in the name of Jesus, of course. So it's how we see this balance between love for your neighbor. So you love your neighbor as you love yourself. And we could say, oh, commandment to love. How could it be? Commandment to love. Yes, our God is so generous. He's so good. He commands us to love, and he commands us to celebrate Sunday. Yes. So we can see that if we need sometimes a shorter summarized version, here we go. We have just two commandments: one to love your God, and the second commandment to love your neighbor as you love yourself. The other day, if we strive, if we want a more detailed explanation, so we could understand how to love, or which actions move us away from loving God or from loving your neighbor, we have a more detailed explanation in the 10 Commandments. But we can actually see in 10 Commandments, some of the commandments, they are written, we could say, in this form: do not do that, do not, yes, in a negative form, some in a positive. But it only comes like a set of rules after the main commandments, about loving. Only after that they come. Yeah. So first of all, if one loves neighbor, if one loves God, this detailed explanation that you need to respect God's name, that you need to have only him and no other idols, and that you have to treat kindly your neighbor, do not steal, do not covet. It's pretty obvious, yes, if the main commandment, loving, is achieved, obeyed, yes. But these shorter commandments, they come as an explanation. And that's what actually Paul does also in his letters. He explains step by step, yes. And this phrase, this verse, saying that if you believe in your heart and you declare in your mouth, yes, that Jesus is Lord, you will be saved. So here again is instruction how to love our God. What else? Paul also reminds that Love is patient. And first of all, when I was reading his letter to the Corinthians, where he writes about it, I was puzzled. The first feature when Paul is describing love is patience. The other features, kindness, coming later on. So the first feature is patience. And we can see this happening in the letter to the Romans, in the Acts. We can see how patient Jesus was as well, how patient he was on the cross. So today is Sunday. And I really wish you a blessed Sunday. And I would like to summarize what I was talking about today. And I'd like you to see it more as reaching rather than preaching. Because God, when he gives such a commandment, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength, he's reaching. He's reaching for our hearts. And when he lists 4, yes, the first one is heart. He's trying to reach our heart. And now the other commandment, yes, love your neighbor as you love yourself, again points to our hearts. And this is what I'd like you to take away today. Yes, that our God is so good. He's reminding us, he's giving us this commandment to love him with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and everything. Heart, soul, mind, and strength he has given us. So he reminds us that we only be happy if we love him with everything we have. And of course, the other commandment he is giving as well, to treat your neighbors kindly, but remembering to treat yourself kindly as well. And because I sing and I play the piano, so one of the ways we can show our God how we love him is singing, is worshiping him, is lifting and raising his name high. So today we'll still have the offering song, we'll still have the closing song and the children's church. So I invite you to be brave, to be courageous, and to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. Thank you.